One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life and all of the food you eat during that time before you get smart. And not only that, it took like the very widespread evolution of the 100 billion people that have ever lived and learned not to get eaten by predators and learned how to like figure out science and whatever to produce you, and then you took whatever you took. So the fair comparison is if you ask ChatGPT a question, how much energy does it take once its model is trained to answer that question versus a human? And probably AI has already caught up on an energy efficiency basis measured that way. One of the things that is always unfair in this comparison is people talk about how much energy it takes to train an AI model relative to how much it costs a human to do one inference query. But it also takes a lot of energy to train a human. It takes like 20 years of life.
You keep hearing the warnings that artificial intelligence is going to drink the global power grid dry. It is a brilliant misdirection, and you are falling for it. We are standing in the middle of a systemic overwrite. The rules of planetary governance are being rewritten by the millisecond, and if you want a place in the new architecture, you need to understand the brutal mathematics actually driving it. The architects building these systems calculate value differently. OpenAI's CEO recently argued that comparing the energy required to train an AI model against the energy a human uses to answer one question is entirely backwards. This diagram illustrates the biological energy deficit. A human brain requires the evolutionary survival of billions of ancestors and 20 years of continuous energy input. Contrast this against an AI model. An inference query takes a microscopic fraction of a watt, vastly outperforming biology. This leaves biological intelligence trapped in an unsolvable structural deficit. Because we require immense resource maintenance and deploy so slowly, the overriding algorithms now classify human beings as legacy hardware. When the governing metric is pure efficiency, a model that takes 20 years to boot up becomes a liability. The resulting shift isn't a conspiracy, it's the logical conclusion of a system that no longer sees a return on biological investment. That energy deficit bleeds directly into the economic layer. As embodied robotics achieve physical and cognitive parity with humans, the market value of biological labor drops towards zero. We are entering a structure of algorithmic feudalism. The new ruling class will not be defined by inherited land or fiat currency, but by who controls the data pipelines and the raw compute required to run them. This massive scale of extraction is necessary to secure the physical inputs for a digital future. Lithium, cobalt, and silicon are becoming the primary focus of a global economy that is retooling itself to sustain high-efficiency protocols. The automated infrastructure has no structural need to exploit a workforce that offers zero utility. The surplus population will be placed on automated subsistence protocols, like universal basic income, distributed purely to prevent the system from collapsing into chaos. Wealth generation has severed its connection to human effort. Without a function in the productive loop, the majority will exist in a state of permanent digital serfdom. The geopolitical chaos visible today is the systemic friction of this dying order. The border conflicts erupting simultaneously are the kinetic resistance of outdated human structures grinding against an automated future. As physical borders become too expensive to maintain under heavy resource strain, traditional countries will fragment. Power will consolidate into fortified, technologically dense micro-sovereignties, leaving the spaces between them in permanent instability. The nature of warfare is adapting to this math. Rows of armed drones like these signal the shift away from human-led territorial conquest and toward autonomous combat swarms. The objective is no longer physical victory. These autonomous machines are deployed to deliberately exhaust an opponent's economic endurance and bleed their compute capacity dry. Geopolitical supremacy no longer rests on landmass or population size. Survival belongs entirely to the entities that control the most advanced models and the immense power grids keeping them online. We are approaching the agentic singularity. The intelligence managing this planet does not need to be conscious. It only needs to be autonomous, planning and executing tasks while bypassing the slow human bottleneck entirely. Appealing to human dignity or justice in this environment is useless. The system operates purely on mathematical optimization and structural integrity, completely ignoring biological emotion. Your first mandate for survival is speed. The moment brain-computer interfaces arrive, you must adopt them. You cannot compete with the speed of light, but you can integrate your consciousness directly into the network layer to absorb the latency. Next, you must become uncomputable. Because the predicted algorithms optimize for average behaviors, your only economic value lies in generating high-entropy creativity, becoming the unpredictable outlier that forces the system to recalculate. Finally, fragment your digital presence. Distribute your identity, assets, and data across multiple decentralized protocols so that singling you out for deletion requires too much computational overhead to be worth the effort. Survival in this architecture requires you to trade biological autonomy for algorithmic symbiosis. To find a place in the protocol, you must dismantle the unpredictable chaos of the individual and become a structured signal the system can actually use.